Welcome back everyone, it is Mike from ManaHoarders. In this video we are bringing you a commander deck tech for a Mardu commander, Isshin, 2 Heavens is 1. You can cast this commander for a red, a white, and a black. You get a 3/4 legendary human samurai. His ability reads, if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. I'm sure many of you have noticed the striking similarities between the abilities of this commander and that of Wulfgar of Icewind Dale. Even more bizarre, in fact, according to Magic the Gathering lore, these two commanders are in fact one and the same. Yes, that is right, Wulfgar of Icewind Dale and Isshin, 2 Heavens as 1 are in fact the same person. After doing some research on my own, I found that during his earlier days of life, when Wulfgar was raiding a village far to the east, he came upon a startling discovery, one item that would change the trajectory of his destiny forever. It was so startling, it actually caused him to give up his barbaric ways and refine himself into that of a samurai master. That item was toilet paper. Now I am obviously joking about that, but one thing I am not joking about is the final price for this build. This build came in at $92.90. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now do bear in mind, some of these prices will vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. Our strategy is pretty straightforward. We want to capitalize and gain as much value from our commander's ability, so we have plenty of ways to attack and gain value, but we do have a few cards that will gain us some value whenever our opponents are attacking, as his ability does not specify when creatures we control attack. As far as our value generation goes, our attack triggers include making tokens, getting creatures back from our graveyard to the battlefield, and dealing damage to our opponents. Now let's go ahead and dive into the deck. First up are our artifacts. Arcane Signet can tap to give us a color of our commander's color identity. Captain's Claws, the equipped creature gets +1/+0, and whenever it attacks we get a 1/1 white core ally creature token tapped and attacking. Commander Sphere can tap to give us one color of our commander's color identity. Ebony Fly enters the battlefield tapped, can tap for a colorless, or we can pay 4. If we do, we roll a d6. Until end of turn, Ebony Fly becomes an XX insect artifact creature token with flying, where X is the result. And whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying. Smuggler's Copter, whenever it attacks or blocks, we can draw a card, and if we do, we'll discard a card. Soul Ring taps for 2 colorless mana. Sword of Hours, whenever the equipped creature attacks, we can put a +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever it deals combat damage, we can roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage dealt, or the result is a 12, we will double the number of 1/1 counters on the creature. Sword of the Animist, whenever the equipped creature attacks, we can search our library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. And Trepidation Blade, whenever the equipped creature attacks, the defending player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card. The creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each card revealed this way. That player puts the revealed cards into his or her graveyard. Now obviously with our commander on the battlefield, this will be going off twice. Moving on to our enchantments. Curse of Disturbance, we can enchant a player. Whenever the enchanted player is attacked, we create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and each opponent attacking that player does the same. Curse of Shallow Graves, whenever a player attacks the enchanted player with one or more creatures, that attacking player may put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, this is just a great saga in my opinion, but the first part of the saga is what is going to draw us the most benefit from our commander. Create a 2/2 red goblin shaman creature token with, when this creature attacks, create a treasure token. Fervor, a very simple and straightforward enchantment. Creatures we control have haste. Kaya's Ghost Form, I included this because so much of the deck is centered around attacking that obviously our opponents will be able to block and potentially kill our creatures, so having ways to keep them on the board is beneficial. Martial Impetus, the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and is goaded. Also, whenever the enchanted creature attacks, each other creature that's attacking one of our opponents gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Parasitic Impetus, the enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded, and whenever the enchanted creature attacks, its controller loses 2 life and we gain 2 life. And Shiny Impetus, the enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded, and whenever it attacks, we create a treasure token. Unquenchable Fury, the enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, it deals X damage to the defending player, where X is the number of cards in their hand. Also, whenever it's put into our graveyard from the battlefield, we can return it to our hand. And Vampiric Rites, a personal favorite of mine, we can pay 1 in the black, sacrifice a creature to gain a life, and draw a card. Moving on to our instance, Abnormal Endurance. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Battle Hymn, we can add a red mana to our mana pool for each creature we control. Boros Charm, we can choose one of the following: deal 4 damage to target player or planeswalker, give permanents we control indestructible until end of turn, or give target creature double strike until end of turn. Brought back, we can choose up to 2 target permanent cards in our graveyard that we'll put there from the battlefield this turn, and return them to the battlefield tapped. Dark Ritual gives us 3 black mana. Make a Stand, creatures we control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible. Reckoner's Bargain is an additional cost. We can sacrifice an artifact or a creature, then gain life equal to the sacrificed permanent's mana value and draw 2 cards. Seething Song gives us 5 red mana. Supernatural Stamina, until end of turn the creature gets +2/+0, and when it dies will come back to the battlefield tapped. Unbreakable Formation gives our creatures indestructible. And Village Rites, we can sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards. For our sorceries, Cathartic Reunion is an additional cost. We can discard 2 cards to draw 3 cards. Gift of Estates, if an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for up to 3 plains cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle. Launch the Fleet, until end of turn any number of target creatures each gain when this creature attacks. Put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Read the Bones, we can scry 2, draw 2, and then lose 2 life. Sign in Blood, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Tormenting Voice, we can discard a card to draw 2 cards. Moving on to our creatures, we do have some legends helping out our commander. Delina Wild Mage, whenever she attacks we can roll a d20, and based on the result we can make some tokens of certain creatures that will come into the battlefield tapped and attacking. Itali Primal Storm, an absolute beast of a commander on his own, but excellent in this build as well. Whenever he attacks we can exile the top card of each player's library, then we may cast any number of non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Karazakar, the Eye Tyrant. Whenever we attack a player, we can tap target creature that player controls and goad it. Also, whenever an opponent attacks another one of our opponents, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose a life. Carter Doomscourge, an absolute beast in this deck. Whenever it enters the battlefield, until our next turn, creatures our opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than us if able. And whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 and we gain 1. Kranko Tin Street Kingpin. Whenever he attacks, he gets a 1/1 counter. Then we create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Kranko's power. Olivia Crimson Bride has flying and haste. Whenever she attacks, we can return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking, and it gains whenever we don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. And the Haunt of Hightower has flying and lifelink. Whenever it attacks, the defending player discards a card. And whenever a card is put into opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on the Haunt of Hightower. And for our not-so-legendary creatures, a Quarter Paladin has Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Anger has haste, and whenever it's on our graveyard, as long as we control a mountain, other creatures we control at haste. Battle Cry Goblin. Whenever Battle Cry Goblin attacks, if we attack with creatures with total power 6 or greater this combat, we create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. Custody Soulcaller has melee, and whenever Custody Soulcaller attacks, we can return target creature card to convert a mana cost X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of players we attacked with a creature this combat. Frontline Medic. Whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures we control gain indestructible until end of turn. Goblin Trap Runner. Whenever it attacks, we can flip 3 coins. For each flip we win, we create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. Goblin War Driver also has Battle Cry. Handwear Garrison. Whenever it attacks, we can put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Hell Rider. Whenever a creature we control attacks, Hell Rider deals 1 damage to the defending player. This card does a ton of work. Honored Crop Captain. Whenever Honored Crop Captain attacks, other attacking creatures we control get +1/+0. Leonin War Leader. Whenever it attacks, we get 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. Mardu Shadow Spear. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. Mardu Strike Leader. Whenever it attacks, we get a 2/1 black warrior creature token on the battlefield. Pulse Tracker. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1. Scholarship Sponsor. Whenever it enters the battlefield, each player who controls fewer lands than the player who controls the most lands searches a library for a number of basic land cards equal to the difference, puts them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffles. Signal Pest has Battle Cry and can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. Sky Knight Vanguard. Whenever it attacks, we get a 1/1 white soldier creature token tapped and attacking. Tectonic Giant. Whenever it attacks, we can deal 3 damage to each opponent, or exile the top 2 cards of our library, choose 1, and until end of our next turn we can play that card. Thundering Raiju. Whenever it attacks, we can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature we control. Then Thundering Raiju deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures we control other than Thundering Raiju. Unforgiving One has Menace. Whenever it attacks, we can return target creature card with mana value X or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of modified creatures we control. And Vicious Conquistador. Whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. And last but not least is our mana base. We are keeping things very basic with 12 basic mountains, 11 basic plains, and 12 basic swamps. And just like that, we reach the end of this Commander deck tech for Isshin, 2 Heavens is 1. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let us know what commanders you would like to see us build around in the future. We really appreciate all of your support.